Hello and welcome to the news on NTA International. I am Chinenye Moye. Let's begin with the headlines. U.S. files criminal charges against Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, detains him and his wife in New York detention center. Equatorial Guinea relocates the country's capital from Malabo. And correspondent takes a look at the major events that could shape global politics in 2026. Many thanks for joining us. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro is being held in a federal detention facility in New York, hours after U.S. Special Forces captured him and his wife in the raid on Caracas, the capital of Venezuela. Details with Uche Ugochukwu.
The U.S. Department of Justice had already prepared a charge against President Maduro, his wife, and top Venezuelan officials with narcotic terrorism and a massive cocaine trafficking conspiracy. Other key defendants include Adela Flores de Maduro, First Lady of Venezuela, Minister of the Interior, Justice and Peace, and one of the most powerful figures in the regime. The charge accuses the defendants of participating in a narco-terrorism conspiracy spanning from approximately 1999 to 2025, during which they allegedly partnered with narco-terrorist groups, using Venezuelan government institutions, military and diplomatic channels to protect, transport and facilitate the importation of thousands of tons of cocaine into the United States.
Maduro and Flores have been indicted in the Southern District of New York, Jay Clayton, for their campaign of deadly narco-terrorism against the United States and its citizens.
Another count, alleged provision of safe haven in Venezuela for drug traffickers and terrorists. The charge equally contains alleged enrichment of the defendants and their families through corruption, bribery, money laundering, and patronage networks, often referred to as the Cartel de los Soles. However, President Donald Trump said the U.S. will run Venezuela for the time being.
We are going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. And it has to be judicious.
He said U.S. oil companies would also fix Venezuela's broken infrastructure and start making money for the country. Uche Ugochukwu, NTA News.
And Venezuela's armed forces on Sunday publicly endorsed Executive Vice President Delcy Rodriguez as the country's acting president following a dramatic U.S. military operation that resulted in the capture and extraction of President Nicolas Maduro. In a televised address, Defense Minister Dadima Padrino Lopez announced the military's support for a ruling by the Supreme Court's Constitutional Chamber, which appointed Rodriguez to serve as interim leader for an initial period of 90 days amidst the forced absence of Maduro. Padrino Lopez described the U.S. action as cowardly kidnapping, accusing American forces of killing several of Maduro's bodyguards in cold blood, along with Venezuelan military personnel and civilians. Venezuelan authorities have not yet released any official casualty count from the strikes and raid. Despite the condemnation, the defense minister urged citizens to return to normalcy. And let me now hand over to Uche Ugochukwu for more stories trending around the world. Hello, Uche, you're on.
Thanks for joining me. We will begin with the Venezuelan saga, where Pope Leo XIV, in his Sunday Angelus, said Venezuelans' welfare should prevail after the detention of President Nicolas Maduro in a U.S. operation, and said the country's sovereignty should be guaranteed. In the 12 noon prayer in St. Peter's Square, the first U.S. Pope told the crowd that considering Venezuelans' welfare above other things must lead to overcoming violence and embarking on paths of justice and peace, guaranteeing the sovereignty of the country, ensuring the rule of law enshrined in the Constitution, respecting the human and civil rights of each and every person, and working together to build a peaceful future of collaboration, stability and harmony, with special attention to the poorest who are suffering because of the difficult economic situation. Pope Leo's comments came a day after U.S. Special Forces captured Maduro in Caracas. And the African Union, AU, has voiced concern over the dramatic escalation in the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela.
In a communique, the Pan-African organization described the event, including reports of Maduro's abduction and attacks on Venezuelan state institutions, as deeply troubling developments. The AU strongly reaffirmed its commitment to core principles of international law, emphasizing respect for state sovereignty, territorial integrity, and the right of peoples to self-determination as enshrined in the United Nations Charter. The AU expressed solidarity with the Venezuelan people amid the unfolding crisis and reiterated its dedication to promoting peace, stability, and mutual respect across nations and regions. Meanwhile, the Chinese Foreign Ministry, in a statement, called on the U.S. to ensure the personal safety of President Nicolas Maduro and his wife, release them, stop toppling the government of Venezuela, calling the strike a clear violation of international law.
Now to Zambia. The country is set to host a high-level 3-day meeting of defense ministers and military chiefs from the Great Lake region starting Thursday, January 8, 2026 in Livingston, with the aim of tackling the worsening security situation in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo.
The gathering, requested by the International Conference on the Great Lakes Region, ICGLR, comes amid renewed violence in the mineral-rich East, where Rwanda-backed M23 rebels have made significant territorial gains, despite a fragile U.S.-brokered peace agreement signed in Washington last month. Zambian Defense Minister Ambrose Luigi Lufuma is expected to chair the discussions. All 12 ICGLR member states, Angola, Burundi, Central African Republic, Republic of Congo, DRC, Kenya, Rwanda, Sudan, South Sudan, Tanzania, Uganda, and Zambia have been invited to send their defense ministers and armed forces chiefs. Zambia, which shares a lengthy border with the DRC, cited growing regional alarm over persistent clashes, particularly in South Kivu province.
In Equatorial Guinea, President Teodoro Obiang Nguema has signed a decree officially designating Ciudad de la Paz as the new capital of Equatorial Guinea, ending Malabro's status as the political center after more than half a century.
The announcement, made on Saturday, formalizes a long-planned shift from Malabo, located on Bioko Island off the mainland, to the purpose-built Ciudad de la Paz, City of Peace, in the central Jibloho province, deep in the equatorial forest. President Obiang, who has ruled the nation since 1979, described the move as driven by strategic reasons, highlighting the new capital's central geographic position as the ideal option for hosting national institutions. The decree marks a historic break from colonial-era administrative structures, with the government framing the relocation as a move to promote regional equity and modern governance.
And finally, displaced people who fled the Sudanese border town and oil field of Higlig after paramilitary fighters closed in recount their suffering during the displacement journey, crossing the South Sudan border twice and passing from one group of fighters to another. Since capturing the army's last stronghold in Darfur in October 2025, the RSF and their allies have pushed deeper into neighboring Kordofan, an oil-rich agricultural region divided into 3 states. In recent weeks, the paramilitary group has consolidated control over West Kordofan, seized Higlig, home to Sudan's largest oil field, and tightened its siege on Kaduglin and Dilin in South Kordofan. That's Global Update. I am Uche Ugochukwu.
Many thanks, Uche. Now, 2026 looks set to be a very busy and important year in global politics, with many major events, elections, economic changes, and new international trends. Here is an overview of the key things that are expected to shape the year with Musa Baba Aliyu.
The U.S. military operation in Venezuela on January 2, 2026 surprised many. Many believe action could significantly change world politics and the global economy. The event is likely to affect U.S. foreign policy, especially with ongoing tensions involving China, North Korea and Iran. Another key issue the world is watching is the war between Russia and Ukraine. In his New Year's message, Ukraine President Vladimir Zelensky said a peace deal is about 90% ready, but the remaining issues are very important. He stressed that Ukraine wants real peace, not the end of its independence. Meanwhile, Russia President Vladimir Putin expressed confidence in Russia's victory and made no mention of peace talks. The Middle East remains a major focus. Iran faces internal political tensions, while Israel continues to view Iran as a serious threat to its security. Will China go to war with Taiwan in 2026? This question is on the minds of many analysts. China has been conducting military drills very close to Taiwan since the beginning of the year, and it keeps warning that Taiwan is part of China. India will host the 18th BRICS Leaders Summit that will be a key platform for emerging economies to discuss economic cooperation, sustainable development, and priorities for the global south. China will host the APEC Summit, with talks likely focusing on trade barriers, economic resilience, and U.S.-China relations. The United States will host the G20 Summit, which will emphasize economic issues such as deregulation, energy security, and innovation. Other important diplomatic events include the European Union Political Community Summit in May in Armenia and an EU-UK summit focused on security cooperation. Finally, the FIFA World Cup, co-hosted by the United States, Canada, and Mexico from June 11 to July 19, will have strong political meaning. The expanded 48-team tournament has already sparked debates about immigration policies, human rights concerns, ticket prices, and high-level diplomatic ties. This includes FIFA close interactions with the Trump administration. Musa Baba Aliyu, NTA News.
This is the news on NTA International. We'll take a break here. There will be more reports when we return. Do stay. Many thanks for staying on. Nigeria, among the Committee of Nations, presented clarity of purpose in international affairs with Nigeria's top diplomat, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Yusuf Tuga, who navigated Nigeria through complex regional crises. On a positive side, Nigeria forged key economic partnerships and initiated a major internal reform of its diplomatic mechanism. The guiding fulcrum has been the 4D doctrine: democracy, development, demography, and diaspora. As the new year begins, Garba Natala examines some of the diplomatic engagement.
The first D, democracy, was put into test directly this year in a significant policy declaration where Nigeria's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Yusuf Tuga, maintained Nigeria's stance on defending people's mandate against the unconstitutional change of government across West Africa. The model for this approach was Nigeria's swift and successful intervention in the Republic of Benin, which helped foil an attempted unconstitutional change of government.
Democracy remains untampered in Benin, and it was successful, and it is an exemplar of what's really should obtain whenever democracy is under threat in our region and indeed on the African continent as a whole.
I hope that all countries members of ECOWAS will support this approach, because we have to stop this spreading of coup in our region.
A quieter and ongoing challenge has been resolving the detention of Nigerian soldiers and aircraft in Burkina Faso. In another turn of events, behind the scenes, work of diplomacy requires patience. just as when the federal government intervened in the release of Nigeria's national team when stranded in Angola for World Cup qualifier match.
The Nigerian government continues to allow the killing of Christians. The USA will immediately stop all aid and assistance to Nigeria.
Another major issue is the United States designation of Nigeria as a country of particular concern, which the Nigerian government rejected.
The recent designation of Nigeria as country of particular concern based on speculations of religious persecution is fundamentally misinformed.
The Foreign Affairs Ministry further briefed the diplomatic community based in Nigeria to convey Nigeria's position to their various countries.
More than at any time before, we solicit the understanding, support, and collaboration of all well-meaning partners in the ongoing efforts of the federal government towards economic growth and development, as well as ensuring enhanced peace and security in the country.
Nigeria is the second largest trading partner with the United States of America. In 2023, the trading volume is about 13 billion US dollars. And in the areas of assistance, in 2023, I think Nigeria got about 1.2 billion US dollars for various humanitarian programs. In 2024, it got over 900 million US dollars. And in 2025, despite the fact that Trump abrogated US aid, so far the country has drawn about $80 million. So you can see we have this robust bilateral relation.
While managing crisis, the ministry has aggressively pursued the development and demography pillars, seeking partnerships for Nigeria's economic future. A key engagement was with Qatar on the sidelines of the Doha Forum 2025, where talks focused on opening new economic frontiers and covered defense cooperation and economic opportunities. On a strategic level, most dialogue was with China in April 2025. In a meeting with Ambassador Yu Denhai, discussions advanced to industrialization, technology transfer, and the exploration of rare earth and critical minerals. Both sides are reviewing bilateral agreements intended to unlock these opportunities. A strategic dialogue was also set with South Africa. The successful hosting of South Africa's G20 outreach meeting in Abuja is also a testament of renewed partnerships with African countries. To ensure transparency and accountability, the ministry established a designated visa application and processing portal to improve visa and passport issuance, as well as overall diplomatic service delivery. Looking ahead, the 4D doctrine was a framework. Today, it is the narrative of Nigeria's engagement with the world.
Now, the 4Ds now will leverage on the structures we have on the ground and connect with international institutions, individuals, and corporate entities in order to be able to leverage on all of these potentials.
The year 2025 under review projects a promising outlook in 2026, with more ambassadorial appointments who are as well expected to strike a balance in advancing Nigeria's strategic partnerships and investments. In Abuja, Garba Muhammad Natala, NTA News.
President Bola Tinubu has directed the military, police and Department of State Services, DSS, to immediately launch a full-scale operation to track down and apprehend the terrorists responsible for the recent deadly attack on Kasuwan-Daji community in Niger State. The president gave the order on Sunday following the killing of several villagers and the abduction of women and children by suspected terrorists. President Tinubu condemned the attack in the strongest possible terms and vowed that the perpetrators would face justice without delay. He also instructed security chiefs to urgently rescue all abducted victims and step up operations around vulnerable communities, especially those located near forests that have long served as safe havens for armed groups. Operatives of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, have intercepted various quantities of illicit substances concealed in the sachets of coffee mist and a book parcel heading to Zambia and the United Kingdom. Sawa Khalil Ibrahim reports that a wanted drug kingpin, popularly known as Mama Kerosene, was nabbed in Ibadan.
The seizures made at a courier company in Lagos came just as the agency took into custody 22 Indian crew members of a merchant vessel, from which 33.5 kilograms of cocaine were seized by operatives at the GDNL terminal at Apapa Port, Lagos. Meanwhile, NDLEA operatives in Oyo State arrested a wanted female drug kingpin who is a major illicit drug distributor in Ibadan, the state capital. The 65-year-old grandma, popularly known as Mama Kerosene, was nabbed in an intelligence-led operation following the seizure of 238.4 kilograms of skunk, a strain of cannabis linked to her. She was arrested along with another female suspect. In Borno State, the supply chain of illicit drugs to insurgents was further disrupted with the arrest of 2 suppliers and the seizure of large consignment of illicit substances. One of the suspects was arrested by NDLEA operatives following the interception of 9,150 ampoules of tramadol injection along the Maiduguri-Gamboringala road. Not less than 400 kilograms of skunk was recovered along with a van at Mobolaji Johnson area of Lagos on New Year's Day, while a suspect was arrested at a motor park in Hadejia town, Jigawa State, while trying to transport 260 compressed blocks of skunk, which he procured from Taraba State to Nguru, Yobe State. In Abuja, Salwa Khalil Ibrahim, NTA News.
First Lady Oluremi Tinubu says Nigeria, as a country on a path of sustainable growth, must continue to support everyone to live full independent lives by creating inclusive environment while strengthening policies and partnerships that empower every citizen to participate confidently in nation building. This is in her message marking 2026 World Braille Day. Celebrating Braille as an important tool of inclusion, dignity and independence for the blind and visually impaired persons, the First Lady says Braille, when integrated with technology, guarantees equal access to information, education and opportunities, bridging digital gap and ensuring accessibility in a world that is becoming increasingly digital. The Director General, National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, Zubeida Umar, has activated the Borno State Operations Office to deploy an emergency response team to support ongoing rescue efforts following a tragic boat mishap in Guru local government area of Yobe State. The NEMA team, in coordination with the Yobe State Emergency Management Agency, SEMA, and other relevant stakeholders to strengthen the search and rescue operations. The boat mishap occurred on Saturday, 3rd January 2026, and involved a canoe conveying 52 passengers traveling from Adiani town in Guri local government area of Jigawa State to Garibi town in Guri local government area of Yobe State. NEMA activates emergency response to boat mishap. The passengers were reportedly returning from fishing and farming activities when the canoe capsized midway across the water channel. As at the time of reporting, 25 persons have been confirmed dead, while 13 persons have been successfully rescued through the combined efforts of emergency responders and community volunteers. 14 persons remain missing, and search and rescue operations are still ongoing. NEMA's Director General, Zubeida Umar, reiterated her appeal to riverine communities to prioritize safety by avoiding the overloading of boats and ensuring the use of life-saving devices during water transportation. And up next is Sports Update.
The Super Eagles of Nigeria are set to clash with the members of Mozambique in the round of 16 of the Africa Cup of Nations in Morocco. Preparations have been stepped up ahead of Monday's encounter, with reports indicating that confidence and belief are steadily rising within the Nigerian camp. The team has continued to intensify morning and evening training sessions with all fit players involved, except those sidelined by injury. Nigeria secured their place in the knockout stage after winning all of their Group C matches. scoring 8 goals and conceding 4. The other fixture of the day, South Africa's Bafana will face Cameroon. Meanwhile, on Saturday, the Teranga Lions of Senegal became the first side to reach the quarterfinals after a 3-1 win over Sudan. Mali also progressed to the last 8, edging Tunisia 3-2 on penalties. And finally, British number 1 Emma Raducanu has withdrawn from her match against Naomi Osaka as Great Britain began their United Cup campaign with a 2-1 group stage victory over Japan in Australia. Raducanu has not featured in competitive action since October and also pulled out of 2 exhibition matches in the United States in December due to a minor foot problem. Her withdrawal comes ahead of the Australian Open, which begins in Melbourne on January 18th. The former US Open champion has endured struggles with form and fitness since her 2021 triumph, but last season she competed 50 matches for the first time in her career and is currently ranked 29th in the Women's World Rankings. With sports updates, Suleiman Musa, NTA News.
And we have come to the end of the news. We thank you so much for being a part of it. I am Chinenye Oye.